We'll first pay homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. As you all can remember, we were discussing one of the udanas during the last couple of weeks. Actually, there we touched upon a particular view, what we call as the kind of Uchchedavada. We are thinking that some people are thinking there is no rebirth and there is complete cessation at the end of this life. Not only the physical body, even the complete mentality going to cease. And so in that Uchchedavada, there are different variances are there, and those were picked from the Brahmajala Sutta. So then actually some requested me to explain more about those kinds of different views. So I thought of taking this Brahmajala Sutta as the next topic to discuss. Before getting to that, so we need to understand different ways of attachments. Now say for example, if we consider lay people, so they have different interests. They want to see beautiful sights, they want to hear beautiful music, they want to enjoy senses as much as possible, they want to enjoy say delicacies, want to go to different hotels and etc. And again certain physical gratification is something that we are looking forward, and based upon that they can have even conflicts, because whatever the resources available are quite limited, and as a result of that, if someone is having it and someone else is not having it, the person who is not having it could have some sort of a jealousy towards the other person. So there can be a kind of a conflict, because he don't have but he wants to have, but he don't have. So as a result of that, there could be a conflict. On the other hand, when someone has it, basically he don't want to share it with someone else. He want to enjoy it by himself, and if someone is coming, so then he has to protect it, because he don't want to share it. Now that is where the miserliness going to arise. So the miserliness becomes another area how people get into kind of conflict. So they want to share, they can't share, they can't give it to someone else. They simply want to enjoy it by themselves, but others are also looking forward for that. So then there's a kind of a conflict situation going to happen. So likewise, so this Issa and Machariya, that is the enmity or the jealousy and the miserliness, Buddha says one root causes, actually two root causes for human conflicts. In the whole world, people want to live happily, but they can't, because of these two reasons. But on the other hand, there's another question now arise. So why then the ascetics, the say Brahmins or monks, whoever the people who have completely renunciated, so they have given up all this sensual gratification, they have become monks, they have become nuns, they have become sort of spiritual people, then how come there can be any kind of a conflict among them? Because they are not much interested about this sensual gratification. They are not asking for various films and music and all that. So there can't be a conflict because of that. But still they themselves have various conflicts. They are getting into various arguments. There are various even wars, religious wars. So how come that can happen? So then the problem, the reason is defined as because of the different views. Even though they are not interested of various sensual gratification, sensual desires and all that sense satisfaction, but now they have various views about the world, about their spirituality, about their meditation, about their development, about their culture, or about their concentration, about their achievements, their attainments. about a particular teaching. So based on various topics, they have different opinions, they have different views. But that particular view could be not the same view that another person would have. So as a result of that, there can be a conflict. One person say, okay, this is like this. Another say, no, it is not like that. It should be like this. So there are conflicting views among the monks, among various ascetic groups. And as a result of that, they get into various kinds of conflicts. Now, therefore, the Buddha's main achievement, in a way, the Buddha's main contribution towards the society is to eliminate these different views. So the Brahmajala Sutta is basically giving that answer. So what are those kinds of views which can arise in one's mind? So when one gets into some sort of such spiritual quest, so there could be various conflicting views, and those can be eliminated by understanding thoroughly about this teaching. So Buddha gives a comprehensive analysis of various views which can be arise, and so those each and every view Buddha analyzed and then abandoned. So basically, in this supreme net of views, so in the Brahmajala Sutta, therefore Buddha is going to analyze 62 different kinds of views and going to abandon them, showing their futile nature, showing their emptiness. Now, before getting to all that information, now there's an interesting story behind this sutta, so we will start from there. And at one occasion, Buddha and the Sangha were traveling from Rajagaha and the Nalanda. So that area is where Buddha was traveling in the road with around 500 monks. So this is a large gathering. So with them, Buddha is now traveling. With them, there's another two ascetics, a different group. They are also going to travel, and their teacher is called Suppiya, and his student is called Brahmadatta. Now Buddha and the Sangha are also traveling. With them, there's another two people. They are not actually the Sangha, but they are also traveling, but they belong to a different group, different ascetic group. Now Brahmadatta being the pupil and the Suppiya being the teacher, so they are having some sort of a argument about the Buddha and the Sangha, about the teaching. So basically, while Buddha and the Sangha are traveling, now these two people are talking. Now the teacher, the Suppiya, is continuously blaming, continuously criticizing, and talking ill of the Dhamma, talking ill of the Buddha, talking ill of the Sangha. On the other hand, the student, that is the Brahmadatta, on the other hand, try to defend. He is telling, no, Buddha is like this, Dhamma is like this, Sangha is like this. So he is talking the opposite. Now quite interesting. Even though they are teacher and the pupil, they have opposing kind of views. Now they are anyway talking and arguing and going through, and Buddha and the Sangha also going through while listening to this argument. And now at another time they stopped. Actually, the Buddha stopped at one point and spend night there, and those two people also spend night there, but the argument continues. Continuously Suppiya going to criticize Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and his student Brahmadatta continuously trying to defend, talking, praising the Buddha. Now this being recognized by the Sangha, so they understood the situation, and now next day, so during the kind of a discussion, now that becomes the theme of their discussion. So they are telling, Accharyang also, Abhutang also, Yavachidang tena bhagavata janata pasata arahata samma sambuddhena sattanang nanadi muktitata nanadi muttikata suppate viddha. Now, different people have different opinions. So they have their own different views, and accordingly the same views who are carrying, they can sort of come together, they may sit together, they may start together, they may have a cordial relationship because they have a same view, they have different same kind of an ambition. But on the other hand, if they don't have the same view, so then there could be conflicts. So likewise, so different people have different views, they have different motivations, they have different views. So this is something that Buddha particularly has mentioned. So when people are dealing, so they sometimes automatically they attract to each other, they start talking, they start discussing, and slowly they build up a relationship because they find that another party, another person has the same view, has same sort of ideas. So that's why they become sort of grouping together. Now even if today this is the same thing that people are using, so if you consider WhatsApp or maybe Facebook, so that is what they are sort of using. So they have certain views, they have certain interests, same kind of interest. So those same group, now they are grouping together, now they are discussing, now they have their own different, so that particular view, and they are sort of talking and continuing. But that could be completely different from another group. Another group could have another entirely different answer, entirely different view. So they have their own group. So likewise, so the marketing people or all these whatever the giants, so they are making use of this trait in the human mind. So when people are talking, when they are behaving, so whatever the view that they have, they can sort of recognize, and accordingly they create a particular group, and those people are now joining the particular group, and now they are talking and they are progressing. So Buddha has recognized this trait, this tendency in the human mind, and so he has mentioned that. So people, actually the Sangha was talking on that particular theme, how beautifully that Buddha has recognized, how Buddha has analyzed that people have different views, they have different ambitions, and so how they have become sort of varied. Now at that moment, Buddha arrived at the pavilion, the discussion area, and he asked monks, what was the theme that you were discussing before I was entering? Then the monks said, Bhante, we were discussing about this particular point where how you have beautifully recognized that how different people have different views, and they are the same view. People may come together, they may flock together, gather, and they discuss. So this is what we have discussed, and actually the thing has happened between Suppiya and the Brahmadatta. While Suppiya was blaming, criticizing the Sangha, the triple gems, on the other hand, the Brahmadatta, being the pupil, trying to defend. Now, at that moment, Buddha gives a long discourse based on this particular theme. Monks, if anyone should speak in disparagement of me, of the Dhamma, or of the Sangha, you should not be angry, resentful, or upset on that account. Now, as the teacher, you can see how Buddha looked at the situation. He was not uplifted or he was not elated, recognizing that Brahmadatta is trying to defend him. On the other hand, he was not angry or sort of upset, thinking that the Suppiya was criticizing him. Rather, he is making this as an opportunity to teach the Sangha that you should maintain that sort of a undisturbed mind amidst either during the praise or during the criticism. Now that is the kind of a higher level advice that Buddha is giving to the Sangha, There could be situations that people are praising, and there could be situations that people are blaming, criticizing, but you have to maintain a balanced mind. We start with the blaming part. When people are speaking in disparagement of the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, or they are criticizing, maybe based on the false accusations, but still Buddha say, okay, the Sangha, as the members of the Sangha or the followers of the Buddha, you should not be angry, you should not be resentful or upset on that account. If you were to be angry or displeased at such disparagement, that would only be a hindrance to you. For if others disparage me, the Dhamma or the Sangha, and you are angry or displeased, can you recognize whether that they say is right or not? Because we become emotional, we have become threatened, we have become emotionally involved, and we are trying to defend ourselves, and we are going to arguments, we are going to conflicts. So we can't see the reality, we can't see whether the accusation is correct or wrong, whether it is based on the false ground or proper ground. We can't recognize, because we become agitated, we become fairly confused, agitated, angry. So the Buddha mentioned here, if others disparage me, the Dhamma or the Sangha, then you must explain what is incorrect as being incorrect, saying that is incorrect, that is false, that is not our way, that is not found among us. So you have to have such kind of a very balanced mind in order to maintain that sort of a stability. If we become emotionally involved, so that would be very difficult. If we become angry, again would be difficult. But if we are able to recognize, okay, their argument is wrong, it is not correct, it is based on some false accusations, okay, patiently we should be able to deliver it, mention that, explain that, not being angry. And on the other hand, but monks, if others should speak in praise of me, of the Dhamma or of the Sangha, you should not on that account be pleased, happy or elated. Now, tatra tumhehi na anando na somanassang na chetaso upillava vivattang karaniya. So basically, so if the mind get elated, if the mind get extremely uplifted, you become sort of completely elated. So there also you can't see the reality, because your mind is completely very much like fatuated. Now at that moment, again you can't see the reality. They are praising, they are sort of telling high about the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and you become extremely happy, you become elated. You can't see the real fact included in their argument. So likewise, here also that Buddha didn't ask us to, okay, be happy and, encourage the others. Rather, you got to maintain a kind of balanced mind. Again, Buddha say, if you become sort of elated, happy, pleased, it becomes a hindrance to you. And if others praise me, the Dhamma or the Sangha, you should acknowledge the truth of what it is true, saying that is correct, that is right, that is our way, that is found among us. So the mind has to be maintained in a very balanced, equanimous manner, so that you can recognize, okay, whether they are telling the truth, or they are exaggerating, or they are talking something completely not relevant to us, they are simply fabricating the situation. They may be telling extremely a beautiful thing, but could be a fabrication, could be an exaggeration. So likewise, so there also Buddha didn't say, okay, you got to be happy. Rather, Buddha say, okay, you need to maintain a balanced mind so that you can recognize the reality, the truth. Accordingly, you can say Yes, it is available. No, it is not available. Something like that. And on the other hand, the next point is where Buddha goes to the detailed account of information. It is monks for elementary inferior matters of moral practice that the worldling would praise the Tathagata. That's an extremely valuable statement that Buddha is making. People don't understand the real qualities of the Buddha. They are merely praising the Buddha for trivial matters, particularly related to the Sila. So that is what they can see. So Buddha simply denies this kind of a praise. Buddha didn't sort of appreciate this kind of a praise because those people are ignorant in a way. They are ignorant. They are not really wise people. They simply say, okay, Buddha is someone who is not taking life. He has abandoned taking life. He is not killing animals. So they are praising the Buddha. But it's a trivial thing. Buddha not taking life is something trivial. It is an obvious thing. But people not understanding the depth, not understanding the vastness, they simply praise for the Buddha being that he is someone who is not killing, refraining from taking life, without stick or sword, scrupulous, compassionate, trembling for the welfare of all living beings. So those are trivial things. So here the Buddha, one by one, now he is explaining the Sila, starting from the short section, what we call the Chula Sila. A huge amount of information is available here. We'll try to summarize that whole part today. So in this Chula Sila, so Buddha starts explaining in a way, in a summarized manner, so what are the precepts that he himself is following and he is advocating to the others, to his followers. And abandoning taking of life, Panatipata Veramani. Then abandoning the taking of what is not given, Adinnadanang Pahaya, Adinnadana Patividato. So basically he is not taking anything which is not given. He is refraining from taking what is not given. And maintaining a very pure life, accepting only what is given. And then Abrahmacharyam Pahaya, Brahmachari Samano Gotamo. So basically he is not involved with any kind of a sexual relationship. And abandoning unchastity, the ascetic Gautama lives far from it, aloof from the village practice of sex. Now we can understand, these points are not that very high level kind of qualities. These are mundane qualities, but still people are attributing that to the Buddha and they are praising the Buddha that Buddha is not having sex. And then Musavadam Pahaya Musavada Pativirato, abandoning false speech. The ascetic Gautama dwells refraining from false speech. And Buddha does not involve with any kind of a false speech. Abandoning malicious speech, he does not repeat there what he has heard here to the detriment of those, or repeat here what he has heard there to the detriment of those. So he is not involved with any kind of a divisive speech. Pisunang Vacham Pahaya. Rather he involved with kind of making people happy, rejoice, and they are accord and they are become more peaceful. So they are basically uniting the people. So not only the Buddha, the Sangha, so that is the theme, the direction that Buddha is showing. Rather than dividing the people, okay, we should try to have unity among the people, make them agreeable, make them peaceful. Parusang Vacham Pahaya, Parusa Vachaya Pativirato. So he has abandoned the harsh speech. Instead of using harsh speech, he is using something pleasing to the ear, agreeable, reaching the heart, urbane, pleasing and attractive to the multitude. So his speech, in that sense, is pleasing to hear. So people may come and hear that, because the speech is not harsh. Sampappalapam Pahaya, Sampappalapaya Pativirato, abandoning idle chatter. he is only speaking what is necessary, what is useful, and it is very much like kind of treasure, well defined and connected with the goal. So only the necessary, only the useful speak that he is talking. And then more information is available related to some other related morality, and with respect to vikala bhojana, and with respect to bijagama bhutagama. So that means now, unlike lay people, so monks are not allowed to damage the plant life, damage various seeds, consume seeds, etc. So basically, that being recognized here, refrainer from damaging seeds and crops. He eats once a day and not at night, refraining from eating at improper times. So the vikala bhojanang pahaya. Only the proper time, the monks, then Buddha is taking their meals. And next, going to Nachcha Gita Vadita Visuka Dassana Pativirato. So people are involved with satisfying themselves, gratifying their senses, dancing, singing, music, etc. So the Buddha is not involved with that. He abstained from using garlands, perfumes, cosmetics, ornaments, adornments, all that. So that entertainment part. So people love to entertain. They are going for entertainment, maybe with their children, with their spouse, maybe with their friends. So that entertainment is something part of the lay life. But the Buddha is not involved with such kind of an entertainment. And then about the luxurious beds, he is not using those luxurious beds. Uchchasayana mahasayana pativirato. Then jatarupa rajata patiggahana pativirato. So not using money. So when money is available, basically that allows the monk to purchase whatever he wants. So basically if he wants to satisfy senses, even that can be purchased. But on the other hand, when there is no money and he has to tell someone else to provide that, so in a way, based on that morality, so he becomes more and more restrained. He can't ask someone to buy, say, beautiful garland. He can't ask someone to buy a ticket for a cinema because it is inappropriate. But if he has money, probably he can try. So that's why so not using money becomes one of a kind of a safety, a kind of a guard, sort of a restrainment. So automatically monks are now restrained because they can't afford. They don't have their own money to spend. They have to get support of another lay person. Amaka dhanya patiggahana. So various kinds of seeds, accepting various grains and maybe raw flesh and all that, and kind of lay women, children, etc. So they are not accepted. And other different kinds of animals, say goats, sheep, cocks, pigs, elements, cattle, horses, all that kind of acceptance is not going through. And basically other different trade, that sometimes people are trading, sometimes they are cheating, and that also is not followed. And taking messages between groups, say one is asking, okay, take this message to another person, and he is asking, okay, you please deliver this message to another person. So such kind of running errands, refrain from running errands, and taking any kind of a messages, and buying and selling, and cheating with false ways and measures, doing some sort of bribery or corruption, and So all that is abandoned. Now when we are telling, okay, these are abandoned by the Buddha, so that is not something very high that we are talking of the Buddha. So these are very basic ethics actually we are talking. So these are the ethical things that we all can understand. Attributing that to the Buddha and talking high about the Buddha, that he is not killing animals, he is not stealing, he is not engaged with any sexual relationship. So those are not really worthy attributes, worthy aspects that we are talking of the Buddha. So these are actually trivial things. So that's why Buddha here in a way condemn or not appreciating what typical people are praising him, because they are praising for these kind of trivial things. And then destruction of seeds, and then from whatever they being propagated. So now actually when it comes to the middle section of the morality, Majjhima Sila, so the same thing what we have discussed is in detail. It's going further and further to very refined levels of morality. Now enjoyment of stored of goods, particularly the food. So typically Upasampada monks are not allowed to store foods. They can only accept the food in the morning and they can consume it, and they have to abandon it. They don't have any they can't have any kind of a desire to store it for the next day. If they are storing, then there's a particular precept they are going to break. Sannidhi Karaka Sikkhapada. So basically here Buddha particularly mentioned, so enjoyment of stored of goods such as food, drink, clothing, carriages, beds, perfumes, meat. Ascetic Gautama refrains from such enjoyment. He is not storing things. And then further, as we already discussed, dancing, singing, music, displays, recitations, hand music, fairy shows, acrobats, conjuring tricks. So many different things are there, and a huge list is there in this sutta, and all that he has abandoned. And sometimes military reviews, so people are preparing for some kind of a war, or they are going through a parade, on views on that is also being abandoned. So basically monks are not allowed to go and inspect a particular army or enjoy their weapons and look at a particular parade or get into looking at a particular war. All that is basically not allowed. And different games. Now people enjoy their time by getting involved with various games. Now series of games are listed here. 8 or 10 rows chess in the air, dicing, hitting sticks, hand pictures, ball games. So we can include cricket here, ball games, blowing through the toy pipes, playing with toy plows, turning somersaults, playing with toy windmills, measures, carriages and bows. So all different kinds of playing, all different kinds of sports. Basically that is being abandoned. Refrain from such idle pursuits. And then Uchchasayana, Mahasayana. Some further details are there, and different kinds of coverlets with the hair on both sides or one side. So more details are there, how people would decorate a particular bed. And you can see when you go to a hotel how luxurious way that they are keeping it, and how much accessories they are attaching to it, and how many linens, how many bed sheets that they have put it, and how well decorated they are keeping it. So all that we can see how that luxurious beds are prepared. Now basically that is abandoned. Then Bandana Vibhusana, that means adornment. So you are adorning the body, beautifying it, applying various perfumes, massaging, bathing in scented water, shampooing, using mirrors, ointments, garlands, scents, unguents, cosmetics, bracelets, headbands, fancy sticks, swords, sunshades, decorated sandals, turbans, gems. So different things are there that people are using to decorate their body. You can see, different people, different groups are using all different kinds of ornaments, all different kinds of adornments to beautify the body. Now that all is abandoned. Then Tirachana Katang. So how they are spending time in talking. So what are the topics that they would talk? Now if you consider today, so what are the topics that people are talking? Maybe in Sri Lanka nowadays they are talking much about the politics. So that has become one of the hot topic. And they are quite interested of that. And people are participating to meetings. They have time for that. That's the interesting thing. So they are participating, and some people are coming and they are talking and criticizing the other party and talking about what they have done and going to present what they are going to do, how they are going to develop the country, and what are the corruptions that the existing government or previous government have done. So all that are all with respect to kings, robbers, ministers, armies, beggars, dangers. Many things are there. So those are the topics that people are talking. And they are quite interested of talking on that. And they can spend hours in talking that. And that is what available nowadays in the internet. And if you can't go to the meeting, you can look at the internet. If you can't look at the TV, you can go to the internet. You can go to YouTube. You can watch it. So all that actually a way of spending your time. So different ways are there now available, unlike past. So during the past, you yourself have to participate in a particular meeting to listen to something. But not today. You don't need to participate, but you still can participate while at home. Through the Zoom, we are now discussing. So kind of a participation. So what are we talking? What is the topic? So that is the point where how are we using this communication? So what are the topics that we are discussing? So there are 32 wrong topics are given in the Dhamma Tirachana Kata. So low, mean kind of topics. So according to the Dhamma, so these are not beneficial to the spiritual life. Conversation about the kings in today's terms, say the presidents, prime ministers, ministers, robbers, etc., etc. And then Vigrahika Katang. So that means say they are arguing each other, criticizing each other. Okay, you know this, I don't know that. Okay, I know that, you don't know that. So like that they are disputing, arguing, criticizing, saying that okay, I am consistent, you are not consistent, you said something wrong, I said correct. So likewise people are criticizing. So all that Vigrahika, debating, that is abandoned. And then Duteya Pahina. So basically that we already discussed about taking messages, running errands. So that is taking one place to another place. So monk is being used for transferring messages. So that is not allowed and abandoned. And various kinds of hinting, belittling, and sort of trying to earn something through the talking, maintaining kind of hinting. So that is basically abandoned. Addicted to deceit. So sometimes people are deceiving, hinting, belittling, and are always on the make of future gains. So when they are talking, there is a hidden agenda. But here in the Buddha, so it is not available, so he has basically abandoned that. And then we go to briefly about the last one, that is the large section of morality, the Mahasila. So more details are there, and some subtle levels of wrong livelihood. Basically, some are involved with palmistry, predictions, analyzing dreams, analyzing body marks, and how a particular animal being behaved, like mouse or say geckos, etc. So people have various mean kind of traditions or predictions, forecasting. So all that is abandoned. And sometimes say if you are going to build a house, so you want to look at an auspicious time. And if a monk is involved with telling you the auspicious time, so that is basically not appropriate. It's completely out of his business. But you can see, so how Buddha slowly abandoning all that and advocating the same to the monks, dividing it into 3 levels, starting with the Chula Sila, next to the Majjhima Sila, then the higher Sila. And then sort of judging the marks, in particular marks in a woman, marks in a man, certain marks, nimittas in a particular girl, accordingly they predict in the future, and how certain group is behaved, accordingly predicting the future. So likewise, in such kind of predictions, that is abandoned. And predicting like, okay, this war going to end like this, now there are going to be a war like that, there's a future disaster going to arise like this. So all those kinds of predictions are abandoned. And various weather related, climate related forecasting. There are going to be an eclipse in the future. Okay, there are going to be a eclipse in the moon, or there could be rain on this particular day. All that about the showers, etc., etc. So that basically, that predictions part further explained in this Mahasila, so that is being abandoned. Predicting good or bad rainfall, good or bad harvest, security, danger, disease, and then arranging marriages, giving and taking marriages, engagements and divorces. So actually people are trying to get involved, sometimes monks, okay, they want to see their horoscope, they want to read their horoscope and accordingly predict their future, and maybe involved with using spells to bind someone or punish someone. All those are basically the below or mean type of wrong practices that the monks, the Buddha are not involved with. And then wrong means of livelihood, appeasing the devas and redeeming vows to them, consecrating buildings, sites, making sacrifices, giving emetics, purges. Now that is the physically how you can do some sort of giving medicines, etc. And people are coming and they are asking various solutions, and the monk is getting involved with this sort of inferior matters, giving them various medicines, giving them instructions, advising on these kinds of completely irrelevant matters. Surgeries, eye surgeries, pediatry, palm reading, etc., etc. Now, all that being included, and then Buddha mentioned, it is monks for such elementary inferior matters of moral practice that the worldling would praise the Tathagata. So the huge list is there, a long account of information is there with respect to the sila, the morality. In this section of Brahmajala Sutta, interesting point is, by explaining all that, Buddha simply say, for such elementary, inferior matters of moral practice, that the worldling would praise the Tathagata. So you can see, attributing sila to the Buddha, he didn't accept it as a really a high thing, really a valuable thing, because being moral is something obvious to the Buddha. Being ethical, being moral, virtuous is something obvious to the Buddha, and no point of praising the Buddha for being virtuous. It's a very trivial thing. Okay, I think we can stop here today, and next we can get into the, say, the large part of it, the more detailed, analytical part of the views. I just simply want to take start of this sutta today, and with that I like to conclude today's sutta teaching session. Now I like to open the session for questions.
Thank you, Bhante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. There is a written question here.
Right.
It says, Venerable Bhante, please can you explain the difference between Anidasana Citta and the Citta when it is experiencing the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception? Is it that Anidasana Citta still is with conceptualization, though without grasping? Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah, you have a question related to something to today's sermon?
Yes, Bhante.
So before we get into this question, so there's a question from
sure,
Venerable Dhamma Vijita, so which is related to today's Dhamma sermon. We'll first listen to that. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Bhante. I'm wondering, the Buddha's talk. So people were praising the Buddha for having good sila, and so I'm wondering how that relates to the 62 views. Is that because the sila that you are mentioning also, the sila helps us to abandon our views because we don't get involved with ourself, involved in the world in these ways of refraining from killing, stealing, sex, intoxicants, food, in these ways. All those ways create a self. It's a sort of a self-view. But I'm wondering what's the point of this part where he's talking about being praised for following sila. Is that related to views or?
No, he slowly prepares the path to explain about the views.
Oh, okay.
Because abandoning views and releasing those old views is his main task. So that is more difficult, because when people are adhere to certain view, so they are strongly adhere to it, and it's very difficult to take them out. And so the Buddha's main task is that. So if a person is praising him for that, that is something worthy. But here people are the vast majority, they are simply praising for this kind of mundane things. So not killing animals, okay, fine. It's not only Buddha, various others also may get involved with such kind of practice, because that is the more ethical, more humane kind of practice. But people are praising Buddha for that. So Buddha say, okay, these are minor things, these are trivial things. So people are praising me for this. So now when we were discussing that the story behind this sutta, so Suppiya and the Brahmadatta, so they are arguing each other, and maybe Suppiya may be criticizing Buddha, maybe based on the morality, but the Brahmadatta is trying to defend him based on the morality. So Buddha say, okay, you don't need to worry too much about it, because it's a trivial thing. So you being a Sangha, you being a member of the Sangha, you are anyway adhering to a proper sila. So when people are telling, okay, you are not killing animals, okay, you are a good monk, you are not getting involved with sexual intercourse, you are a good monk, you are not using money, you are a good monk. So these are, in a way, according to the teaching now, we can see, so these are, in a way, the basics. These are the basics.
Yes.
So this is something fundamental.
So that's kind of a wrong view to praise him for morality.
It's not a wrong view, by the way.
Okay.
It's not that Buddha denying it. Rather, what I understand is, say, it is not something that we need to be elated by saying, okay, Buddha is not someone not killing animal, he is not someone not taking intoxicants. So these are not something that we need to be really happy thinking that he is such a person.
Mm-hmm.
But more than that, there are more sophisticated, more important points which Buddha was helpful to the society, to the humankind.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the matters that we need to carefully analyze and see how carefully Buddha has analyzed, how carefully Buddha has untangled the whole situation. You know that when people are suffering, assume that they want to find out a solution. Now they are going to find out a solution, but in between they end up with getting to a particular wrong view. They stuck in a particular wrong view. So ultimately they also become helpless, because they were in a typical mundane worldly kind of life. They understood, okay, I need to find out a solution. Now they are going to find out a solution much better than the previous typical lay people. But these people, spiritual people, they end up with stuck in a particular view. So if Buddha can help them to overcome that particular view, to untangle that particular view, so that they are become completely released. So that is where Buddha is highlighting, okay, this is the main task. This is where the spiritual people, the ascetics, the Brahmins, the monks, whoever the spiritual people who are, they want to find out a solution to be free from suffering. But unfortunately, in between they get stuck in wrong views. So those are the areas more complicated, more subtle, and those are the areas that Buddha is very, very carefully, in a more talented way, that he is overcoming. So his achievement is there. So all different 62 views, he is now one by one, he is abandoning.
And we're going to get to those. We haven't started those yet.
Not started. Yes.
Okay.
So now this Brahmajala Sutta, talking of all those 62 views, and we need to analyze them, we need to go through them, and how Buddha deny them, how Buddha finds certain loopholes in them. So abandoning all that 62.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Bhatt.
Yeah. So we can get to the next section. If it is related to the sermon, Jennifer, we can first answer that.
Okay. Let me check with Geshan. Do you have a question relating to the sermon?
Yes, Jennifer. If you don't mind, I can ask that questions and continue on this discussion. So, thank you, Bhante. I really appreciate your teaching this and talking about it. And I have heard the name of the sutra, but I don't believe that in the past I have listened to the details of it. But I'm glad that you're talking about it now, so I can be a part of it. So I have a couple of observations as well. I think one of the questions what I had earlier, I think Dhamma Vijita raised the question and you answered that question. And before we come to these views, I think he's trying to normalize, I think trying to negate, trying to set up a stage. That's what I kind of figured. So my question is, while you're talking about it, I think he was talking about predictions. So my thinking is these basically applied for monks rather than the lay people, and then for the monks for their betterments, I guess. And I think we as the lay people also can adopt these kind of associations or the rulings or the fundamental rules for our betterments as well, I guess, for our nirvanic journey. So the questions basically comes when it talks about predictions. If a monk is not supposed to do predictions, and I have heard of I can't recall the sutra, but Buddha talks about in the future how the world comes to an end with 7 suns coming to and basically our existence sort of disappears and etc. Mm-hmm. Isn't that a prediction itself? But I just wanted to sort of ask that question.
Yeah, that's also a prediction, true. But basically, that is related to something which is arousing urge in ourselves and showing the impermanence of this whole thing. And sometimes Buddha has given us certain indications. Say, for example, in the Mahasudassana Sutta in the Nikaya, he's talking about the past mentions about his past life as the monarch, how he has lived a luxurious life. But ultimately, after explaining all that, he simply say, all this is impermanent. All that is impermanent. All that has gone. All beyond your control. Now we have nothing of that. So arousing some urge in the listeners. So he's explaining a huge information, long information, but ultimately taking us to the level, okay, these are not permanent. These are not something that we can attach to. We should attach with. These are all have to be abandoned. We can't depend on any of this, even though it's a really marvelous kind of a kingdom, but that is not available right now. So likewise, even with respect to the future, so Buddha is talking of that, say about all that world systems, etc. And but arousing urge in ourselves, arousing the impermanence, highlighting the impermanence, highlighting the uncertainty of everything, so that our aim becomes more towards emancipation. Aim becomes more towards abandoning all this rather than adhering to it. Now here predictions means the mundane kind of predictions. Say for example, okay, now we are experiencing some kind of a drought. Someone is telling, okay, on 21st or on 22nd at particular time, now going to be a rain. Fine. Or someone else say, okay, there are going to be a disaster on this particular day. So these are in a way kind of mundane type of predictions. And this is what basically not allowed and not being praised. And on the other hand, with respect to the world views, they are also Buddha sometimes reluctant to explain. Sometimes monks have asked whether, say, a certain world system, etc. But Buddha was silent. And again, sometimes people ask, but Buddha was silent. And sometimes he answers briefly because that is not his interest, and he is meant to simply say, these are not causing you to disenchantment. So all these things are possible that Buddha might be able to explain them, but not related to the emancipation, not related to the disenchantment. So his teaching is particularly aimed at disenchantment. Not appreciating being in the samsara and having a very comfortable life in samsara. Rather, his aim, his direction is to have some kind of a disenchantment in us, so that we are more carefully, eagerly working out to abandon, to get rid of, or to completely free from samsara.
Yes, Yeah, I agree. And I kind of like how in this beginning that he was the Buddha was trying to sort of bring that conversation, similar kind of a concept from the Madhupindik, and think of that he was saying to Dandapani that his whole argument is not to argue. So I think that phrase sort of resonate, and I try to think over and over as well, because these kind of things, I think he's trying to sort of bring all the other monks to not to dwell on the things what is not relevant, I guess.
Exactly.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
Right. Now,
Turan
Saranai. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then for the next question, let me check with Kumudini. Hi, you may unmute.
Thank you, Bhante. I enjoyed today's sermon, but I have a few questions to ask you, Bhante. So this advice is merely for people who are on the path, and because, for instance, now there is a on the 8th of April, there's an eclipse happening, and people have predicted that. So this sort of predictions can be done by astronomers and all kinds of people who are in that kind of field.
Can.
But Buddha is saying if you're in the path towards the Nibbana, you shouldn't be worrying about that. Am I right in understanding that?
Rather worrying, we can say you are getting involved in that. You are doing the predictions. Now, if you can see,
no.
Yeah, that's the point. So
But
now in the months,
other words, you will be, of course, as general knowledge, you will hear of it, right?
yeah, that may be possible, and accordingly you can adjust your timetable also. That's no harm. But you being involved now, a Upasampada monk being involved, and he is doing that prediction. He is advising the kings and the all that traders. Okay, they are going to be something like this on this particular day. And all people are coming asking various predictions from him. So that is now going to be a different story.
So, am I right in understanding that the Buddha is talking to people who are earnestly on this path towards Nibbana, and he's trying to reveal the urgency?
We can say so.
Isn't that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we can add further, particularly these are relevant to the Upasampada monks, high ordained monks. So high ordained monks are not allowed to get involved with all these.
But even for those who are not ordained monks, Bhante, we have to also follow some things, isn't it? I mean, not to this extent, but
yes.
it is not possible moving in the mundane world, but to some extent. Am I correct?
Yeah, we can say so, because typically for the lay people, either the 5 precepts, 8 precepts, 10 precepts, so those are allowed. And so those are the, the very fundamental ethics that Buddha advocating. And when it comes to high ordained monks, so he's going to more detail, very subtle points. Okay, you should not get involved with this, you should not get involved with this. So like that's a detailed account is there.
I see. Thank you, Bhante, because I just wanted to, clarify that this was merely mostly for the ordained monks and people who are earnestly on the path.
Correct. Yes.
Thank you. Thero Saranai.
Yeah, Thero Saranai.
Okay, thank you. Alright, I believe that is all the raised hand questions.
Right.
Which leaves the written question as the last one.
Yeah. So then we'll get into that question. Jennifer, can you repeat the question again, that written question?
Sure, Bhante. It says, Venerable Bhante, please can you explain the difference between Anidasana Chitta and the citta when it is experiencing the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception.
Right. Now,
okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, now typically we start with something like this. Now, when the mind is getting involved with, say, when the eye is getting involved with looking at a particular sight, so at that time, okay, mind also get interested, and mind get established there, and now you are enjoying that particular scenery, that particular sight, and the mind is established there. We call consciousness is established there. Similarly, say when you are listening to a music, okay, you are enjoying that, you are being delighted with it, so the mind is involved there, consciousness is established there, established on sounds. So likewise, so when we are getting involved, particularly on the sensual gratification level, so the consciousness is well established. So it is being passionate, it is established, it is rooted, and mind represents some sort of information. Nama Rupa is there. So say for example, when you are enjoying a music, so your eyes may be closed, you are enjoying it to the fullest, but mind is showing various pictures, various images, and various sounds, and you are imagining, you are taking to a completely fantasy world. So the mind is completely showing various things. So your consciousness is filled with various images, various sights, various images, various tones, feelings, etc., etc. Now, assume that kind of a situation where you are able to maintain a mind which is completely free. That means even though sights are there, mind is not interested of getting involved with that. Even though sounds are there, mind is not interested of getting involved with that. Similarly, the other things you can recognize, even though smells, tastes, tangibles, things are there, but mind remains secluded. Mind remains maintaining kind of a solitude. So that is where slowly mind become independent. It doesn't want to get involved, doesn't want to get mixed up with all that sense impingements. Rather, it prefers to be alone, prefers to be independent, prefers to be free. At that level, we can say comparatively mind is free, comparatively mind is unestablished. Consciousness is unestablished. Now, further, say for example, if you are completely able to free your mind, no thoughts, no images, no sounds, smells, tastes, tangibles, completely independent, so then you can say the mind is completely unestablished. Consciousness is completely unestablished, completely free from any grasping, and there you can say mind has complete clarity. No images, no tones, no feelings which are very much hindering the vision of the mind. Mind has complete clarity. There we can say it is anidassana. They are unmanifested. Unmanifested in the sense images and smells, tastes, tangibles, all that, or any feelings, any perceptions, any thoughts, none of them have corrupted the mind. None of them have hindered the mind. So mind has its complete lucidity, complete clarity. Then we can call it as anidassana vijnana. Now, when it comes to arupa jhana, now even though you are in a jhanic state, say akasananchayatana, even though you are in the complete boundless space, so the mind being conditioned by that boundless state, boundless space is become some sort of a conditioning factor to the mind. Similarly, vijnananchayatana, complete boundless consciousness. So there you have conditioned the mind to be like that. Akinchanyatana, complete emptiness. So there also it is not through the understanding, rather through say kind of conditioning one can attain akinchanyatana. So there again the mind become conditioned. Neva sanya na sanyayatana. Similarly, mind has become fairly conditioned, and you are maintaining neither perception nor non-perception. So the conditioning has happened, completely conditioned, prepared your mind to maintain such state. So you are maintaining such state basically using your effort, basically using your conditioning process. Even though it is so subtle. Now we can easily understand, okay, when your mind associates a particular sight, you are enjoying that, you are delighted with it, your mind gets filled with all that information, we can easily understand. But if we consider this what we call Neva Sanya Nasanyayatana or any other, say, Arupa Jhana level, so the state is very, very subtle, but still the mind has conditioned. Still mind has something to associate. Not very rough level of association, but very subtle association is there. So the Arupa Jhanic level, Neva Sanya Nasanyayatana or whatever other Arupa Jhana and Anidassana Vijnana, there are therefore a fairly difference is there. In the Arupa Jhana level, still there is certain amount of conditioning, certain amount of association, certain amount of coloring of the mind. But at the Anidassana level, such coloring, such conditioning also abandoned. Mind has to maintain complete freedom. Okay, that's it, Jennifer.
Bhante, there's a second part to that question. It says, is it that Anidassana Citta still is with conceptualization though without grasping? Thank you, Bhante.
Can you repeat?
Is it that Anidassana Citta still is with conceptualization though without grasping?
Conceptualization. No, you can't. Now, conceptualization relates to the Sankhara Khanda, where you do further thinking, you do further fabrications, you do further conceptualization. So, conceptualization cannot be present when the mind is at the Anidassana level. So, it can't have any kind of images or any kind of perceptions, any kind of formations. Nothing could be available when the mind is utterly in the Anidassana level.
Thank you, Bhante. I believe that's all of the questions for tonight.
Right. Okay, then we have spent about 1 hour and 15 minutes discussing the Dhamma. So all the merits that we have accumulated, we will share with all the celestial beings and all the past relatives and whoever in need of merits. And we wish these merits help us also to attain path fruition Nibbana. We will recite the traditional verses. Ettavata ca amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata ca amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata ca amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Akasattha ca bummatta deva naga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu sasanang. Akasattha ca bummatta deva naga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu desanang. Akasattha ca bummatta deva naga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu mamparang. Idang vo ñātīnaṁ hotu sukitā huntu ñātayo. Idang vo ñātīnaṁ hotu sukitā huntu ñātayo. Idang vo ñātīnaṁ hotu sukitā huntu ñātayo. Imina punya kammena māme bāla samāgamo. Satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiya. Imina punya kammena māme bāla samāgamo. Satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiya. Imina punya kammena māme bāla samāgamo. Satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.